Welcome to this explainer. Let me tell you, the AI landscape is literally shifting under our feet right now, and we are going to unpack a truly wild week. We're mapping out the industry's massive evolution, the leap from conversational chatbots that just help us brainstorm to fully autonomous agentic workflows. So let's kick things off with a massive question, because we are moving at just blistering speed toward an era where AI doesn't just talk to us anymore. It acts for us. Like, what actually happens when the open source community drops these massive trillion parameter models right at the exact same time the biggest infrastructure players start throwing around $60 billion buyouts to consolidate the market? If you look closely at the avalanche of announcements this week, a really cohesive story starts to emerge. And that's the pivot to perception-to-action systems. We're officially moving away from models that just generate text and moving toward true agents that can actually perceive their environment, reason through a complex problem, and then seamlessly execute it. We're talking about AI autonomously operating creative tools or even managing physical retail spaces. Section 1. The New Frontier Models. Let's look at how the proprietary giants are pushing the absolute boundaries of intelligence to make these workflows a reality. All right, so OpenAI just released their latest frontier reasoning model, GPT-5.5, which is already a huge leap. But you know what's crazy? Internal routing logs are already showing a controlled evolve test for GPT-5.6. And on top of that, backend logs revealed a dedicated GPT-5.5 Codex model slug. OpenAI even cheekily teased this with a video of a dog pressing a keyboard. This all points to a highly specialized model built strictly for agentic coding right around the corner. We're talking about AI that literally writes and deploys its own software. And man, GPT-5.5's dominance in the benchmarks is just staggering. It achieves state-of-the-art intelligence at half the cost of its competitors. It absolutely tops the AA coding index at 59.1 and the intelligence index at 60.2. It even clears Opus 4.7 on the terminal bench hard metric. Basically, that means it solves way harder tasks while using far fewer tokens. It's just incredibly efficient. Meanwhile, over at Google, they've been focusing heavily on security, deploying Gemini 3 with their new Frontier safety framework, but they are definitely not resting. They're gearing up to launch Gemini 3.5 at their developer conference in just 21 days. And honestly, the industry is already buzzing with massive expectations for the arrival of Gemini 4.0 at Google I/O 2026. Moving on to Section 2. Xiaomi's trillion-parameter breakthrough. The proprietary labs are moving fast, but wow, the open source community is striking back with massive scale. 1 trillion. Let that sink in. That is an absolutely staggering number, and it's the total parameter count of Xiaomi's newly open-sourced flagship model, MiMo-V2.5 Pro. And crucially, this whole thing is under an MIT license, which means developers and enterprises have total freedom to commercially deploy and fine-tune it. Game changer, right? This setup brilliantly illustrates the power of this model. It uses a mixture of experts architecture. So instead of firing up all 1 trillion parameters at once, it activates just the 42 billion it needs for a specific task. That creates some extreme inference efficiency. It supports a massive 1 million token context window, scores a 63.8% success rate on ClawEval, and ranks 3rd globally for average task completion, all while being 60% cheaper to run. Wild. And to prove how this enables true agentic workflows, Xiaomi actually put their mobile agent, MiClaw, into beta testing. It takes these exact 3 steps. First, it understands user intent. Second, it natively invokes applications. And third, it selects system-level tools to execute commands. It literally transforms your smartphone from a passive piece of glass into an active AI tool that interacts directly with the user interface on your behalf. Okay, Section 3, NVIDIA's multimodal OpenAI. The crucial point here is that to make these agents work flawlessly in the real world, we need to unify their senses. We need models that can see, hear, and read all at once. And that brings us to NVIDIA. They just dropped the Nematron 3 Nano Omni. This is an incredibly efficient 30 billion parameter open model, specifically built to act as the perception and context subagent for broader agentic systems. Here is where the magic happens. Traditionally, agents rely on fragmented chains, like a separate stack for vision, another for audio, another for text. That causes delays and massive computing costs. Nematron fixes this completely by providing unified multimodal reasoning. It creates a single shared perception to action loop that natively processes video, audio, images, and text together in one unified brain. The resulting efficiency is just breathtaking. Nematron delivers up to 9.2 times higher system efficiency for video workloads and is 7.4 times better for multi-document reasoning. Plus, with its 256K context window, it is perfectly optimized to bring next-generation physical AI to edge-first applications, so powering everything from autonomous vehicles to interactive physical retail kiosks. Let's move on to Section 4, SpaceX's $60 billion cursor deal. We've talked about the models and the perception engines, but what happens when you combine the absolute best agentic coding workflows with the largest physical compute infrastructure on the planet? $60 billion. That is the size of the option SpaceX just secured to acquire the AI coding startup Cursor later this year. And get this, even if they decide not to buy them outright, SpaceX will still pay Cursor $10 billion just for their joint work. This mega deal pairs Cursor, which is currently the absolute go-to AI platform for expert software engineers, with SpaceX's Colossus training supercomputer. Colossus boasts the equivalent of 1 million H100 GPUs. I mean, that is an astronomical amount of compute. The goal here is to build the world's most useful coding models entirely in-house, freeing Cursor completely from its current reliance on models from Anthropic or OpenAI. Now, impartially speaking, a consolidation of this magnitude is definitely making waves. Market analysts are noting that Fortune 500 customers are currently evaluating their exposure here. They're watching very closely to see how this integration with xAI's infrastructure will impact Cursor's existing zero data retention policies, meaning those guarantees that corporate code won't be secretly saved. They're also questioning whether the platform can maintain true model neutrality once it's under the SpaceX umbrella. And finally, Section 5, the rise of agentic AI. Let's tie all of these massive announcements together. Because whether we're talking about software or hardware, they all point in exactly one direction. As this quote beautifully highlights, the bottleneck for AI is no longer the intelligence itself. Whether you are setting up autonomous coding agents or deploying advanced smart home tech, the real challenge today is the execution, the technical overhead, and the raw infrastructure required to make it all run smoothly. We are literally watching the building blocks of a new autonomous digital infrastructure fall into place. From OpenAI's upcoming Codex and Xiaomi's highly efficient trillion-parameter agents, to NVIDIA unifying our multimodal senses, and SpaceX hoarding the compute needed to power it all, the entire industry is hyper-focused on perception-to-action systems that will very soon operate our creative software, our vehicles, and our retail spaces entirely on their own. Which leaves us with this final thought to take away from today's explainer. As our AI fundamentally evolves from conversational companions into autonomous agents that execute multi-step commands on our behalf, who will ultimately control the massive supercomputers powering our everyday actions? It's a fascinating shift and one we'll be watching closely. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.